Welcome everyone to Medrash Rabbah on the Parsha. We are going to discuss this week's Parsha, Parshas Chukas, a very interesting Medrash Rabbah, which has some very deep implications to it. So we'll start. It's a story, but we're going to analyze the story with a message. The story goes as follows. This was a story with at the times of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was at the times of the second Beis Hamikdash, going into the Churban. He was the Nasi of his time. He lived a very long life. And he encountered a non-Jew who came to him at some point, and he asked him a very interesting question, which is pertaining to the mitzvah of this week's parsha. And he asked him as follows. He says, I see you guys are during certain days, you are doing something that looks like witchcraft. What he was referring to was the mitzvah of paraduma, the mitzvah of using the ashes of this red cow, that they used it towards, they would mix it with water and they would spray it onto somebody who was a tamei meis, impure from a dead body, on the third and the seventh day. So if he's asking, what are you doing on these days? It looks like witchcraft to me. Okay? So, what was his issue? What looked like witchcraft? So he said, what are you guys doing? You're bringing a cow, you're burning it, you're grinding it, you take its ashes, and one of your guys becomes impure from a dead body, and then you spray on it this, right? 2 or 3 drops, and boom, you're saying that this guy's pure. That was his issue. To him, it seemed like witchcraft. We're going to analyze this soon. So in other words, he's saying basically, you guys officially, seemingly his question was, in your Torah, you don't believe in witchcraft, or at least you have an issue with witchcraft, that your Torah has an issue with it, it's an avero, it's a prohibition, so why is this any different? So he tells him, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai responds to him like this. He tells him, have you ever seen somebody that it's a ruach tezazis ever enter him? Ruach tezazis, it may possibly mean some type of spirit of sort. At least in those days, they believed some type of spirit that made a person just lose his mind or go crazy. He said, have you ever had this happen to you? So he told him, no, it never happened to me. He says, so Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked him, have you ever seen it happen to somebody else? So he says, yes, I have seen it. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai asked him, what do they do to such a person? So he said, what they do is they bring different types of roots from different plants, and they light it up, and they smoke it underneath this person. They let the smoke go underneath this person who this spirit enters him and makes him crazy or whatever happens to him. That's strange. And they throw on him some type of water, and the spirit leaves. I'm not sure if this is what they refer to as an exorcist. I'm not sure. But it's some type of weird spirit that makes the people, it makes them crazy, and they have to do this ritual. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai tells this guy, this non-Jew, he tells him, your ears should hear what is coming out of your mouth. Listen to what you're saying. This is the answer to what you asked me. He says, so too, this spirit, quote unquote, in other words, that what we're calling tumah in our religion, in Yiddishkeit, he says, this ruach tumah, the spirit of tumah, which is referred to as, he brings a pasuk in the Zechariah, chapter 13, pasuk verse Beis, actually refers to it. It calls it to ruach hatumah, ruach hatumah of min haaretz. So this ruach hatumah, so to speak, we also spray on it this liquid, and it runs away. That was his response. There's what to analyze here. We'll get to it in a moment. So his students, after they saw this incident with this non-Jew, they came over to the rabbi, and they asked him, Rabbi, why did you push him off, this guy with a stick? In other words, you didn't give him a real answer. He says, but we want to hear a real answer. Okay, so he told them the answer, which was what they wanted, the real answer. He says like this. He says, a dead person is not what makes a person tummy, right? And the water is not what makes a person tor. What is it? It's all HaKadosh Baruch Hu, right? It's a choik, it's a decree, The HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I make this decree, you're not allowed to go against it. It's that simple, right? That's what it says. This is the chukah, this is the law of the Torah. In other words, this is something that I decree, and you can't change that. So, you have to understand what's going on over here, right? Why is this a better response? And why couldn't he have answered this to this non-Jew? So let's first understand what exactly the discussion was between the non-Jew and Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, right? What was their factors that Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai took for granted that he couldn't have explained? I mean, these factors that he told at the end to his students that he couldn't have explained to this non-Jew. There must have been a fundamental difference over here that he couldn't have explained, and that only us as Jews have this emunah and this belief that only as part of our tradition we accept this, and he couldn't have accepted it. So if we had to give him this push away. So let's try to analyze this. What exactly was this guy's claim against Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, right? What was he claiming against him? This is witchcraft, right? And how did he solve this question? By telling him, by Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai, hey, you guys also have something similar to this. So how did that answer the question? I mean, what was his question initially, right? So, we could possibly say like this, that basically, what is witchcraft? Let's understand what witchcraft is. One understanding of witchcraft is, according to some Rishonim, is that basically you're taking different energies in nature, and you are manipulating them in order to come out with a certain effect, which we won't normally do on their own, right? One may call that maybe technology nowadays. It's a question for itself. But back then, that is what they understood, is what kshafim were, is that different types of sorcery or witchcraft, if they are the same. So this person, the way he understood is that, okay, Tumah, this is non-Jew, he understood this Tumah is a force in nature. It's an energy, it's around. It jumps from place to place, like any other energy that's there. Radio waves, light waves, etc., etc. It jumps from place to place. It doesn't just pop out of thin air. It's in the universe. It just makes its way around. So for he said, this is just like sorcery, how you guys are doing. You guys are basically taking this energy, you manipulate them how you want. When you want to remove them, you know how to remove them. When you want to bring them, and when they want to come, they come as such. Through, it transfers from dead bodies and goes on, etc. And then you guys manipulate them. So, and Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai responded to him accordingly. He told me, what we do as what you consider witchcraft, right? That these are energies that we're sort of manipulating. He's saying, actually, you guys can find this within even processes of your healing, right? This is something that they did. These spirits that came to people, they consider this as kinds of diseases. In other words, that these diseases are coming to people. They come from different areas, different places, and they had different methods of getting rid of it, right? Certain smokes, certain liquids he throw on the person to get rid of these different energies that come around and jump around. So, in other words, Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai was telling this guy that, according to your logic, from manipulating of energies, he's saying it's not, this is not necessarily sorcery per se. You could refer to this as any type of healing process. Technically, you have energies in this world that are going around, like we call viruses, right? We have learned and discovered viruses recently, right? What makes people sick? There are these things that jump around, these little pieces of energy, so to speak, that jump around, and they affect different people, right? And you could get rid of them eventually. The same idea. So now, what Rabbi Yochanan Zakkai didn't want to respond to this guy, what he told his students, is because this is the fundamental difference. He's saying, we don't believe that Tumah and Tahara, right, purity and non-purity, are energies which are there within nature. He's saying these are actually, he says, these are gzeis, they're decrees. Some person becomes impure from the dead body. It's not because a dead body has power to, it's not an energy that's there, it's able to promote. This is because God said, you have this certain thing, I'm going to tell you that if you touch this, you're going to become impure now. So the impurity really starts from you. It's just God says, it becomes created within you. God says, it's only in this scenario you're going to touch this thing, etc., etc. But not that this dead body of its own has any kind of real energy that could be passed on and thereby manipulated and therefore thrown out. No, it's not thrown out. It disappears completely. It doesn't exist anymore after you matar it. So that's a completely different view in how we view impurity and a non-impurity, unlike how this guy was viewing it. He was viewing it as another energy in the world, which you can manipulate it, you could throw it in, throw it out, and shoo it away, and eventually it could come back. But that's not how Tum v'Tahara work. So it's quite an interesting perspective in these aspects that it actually puts this concept of Zeis Chukas. I tell you, this is a chukah. This is something that I was geyser. It's a new perception of what the pasuk is telling us. Really, what the pasuk is saying is that, okay, it's not just I'm making decrees. This is how you're making people Torah. This is not. Meaning, in other words, the whole tumah, the whole concept of impurity, God is saying this is a new energy. It's not even an energy. It's really a new creation that happens in that moment that I'm deciding. Right? It's not energy that's already I put into the Tevin, into the world, that is just going to jump around. It can be manipulated like anything else. This is something that's actually quite unique. So, just a food for thought. So this is, if you wish to say, there's a new energy in the world which doesn't exist in any other ways. It's called Tumah v'Tahara. It's very different than all other energies in the world that we know of, right? Whether it's electromagnetic, magnetic energy, etc., etc., is the energy that gets created in the moment of a certain incident. It doesn't exist otherwise. So let me know what you guys think about this, and I would love to hear more. Please share, subscribe, etc., etc.